Welcome back to the podcast and to the latest edition of Two Blues Tuesday. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. C Money Picks, for the first of a seriously busy transfer window schedule. We are going to be hopefully on your screens every Tuesday night, as well as other weekdays, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to be bringing you Chopping It Up with Charms, Loan Watch, some Premier League recaps on our predictions. But today we're jumping straight into it. It is only right that we talk about strikers. Liam Delap confirmed Chelsea new number nine, £30 million. The release clause has been triggered from Ipswich. All of his medicals reportedly done, no problems there. But will Chelsea go back into the market? My gut says yes. And with the bonus of an extra little transfer window pre-Club World Cup, I think this could be a great chance for us to see whether Delap is, it is the real deal, or whether he is just kind of a stopgap for a more serious striker. But we will get straight into it, analysing the most likely. I've also asked Mr. C Money to choose his favourite, so we're going to try and justify why we think said strikers are the best choice for Chelsea. But jumping straight into it, Charms, initial thoughts on Liam Delap, a player we've been linked with all summer, but by no means the only team linked with him.
Yeah, no, it was a player that was big in demand. I think, there was a lot of speaking about how his season was going to go at the beginning of the season. A lot of teams monitoring him the way through. 12 goals for Ipswich. For a side that got relegated in the fashion that they did, I'm relatively, impressed that he bagged 12. He's good young player for sure. English talisman. If he does come good, it's going to be a real big thing. He could be the next generation of Harry Kane. It's been a minute since we've really had like a young English striker, that style of young English striker. Anyways, we've had the Ollie Watkins and whatnot, but not this sort of target man style. And I like it. And I think for the valuation of 30 million, I think it's more than a fair deal. I think the price tag around the deal is probably why we snapped at the opportunity, just because we can and we should, so we will. But yeah, as you said, I don't think that this was the primary intention for a striker, and I think we will go back into the market for one of them. There are plenty of strikers at the moment, and we're in a quite rarer situation. It isn't often in a transfer window that there are multiple world-class strikers available, and this is one of those summers. So yeah, I remember 3 or 4 seasons ago when it was centre backs were all the rage, and this season I think it's going to be very, very fun to see how the cups will shift around. And if we do end up with who I want, I think we'll do very, very well next season.
No, 100%. And it is interesting. It's like you said, a good striker in this day and age is like gold dust. And a goal scoring striker at the top level is going to get snapped up like that. So it is, quite refreshing to see 5 or 6 potential options, as well as 7 or 8 other kind of wild card options, which we will get into later. But yeah, I mean, just on Delap, as you've said there, I think the main win for this, the main reason why this is such a good move is the price tag. Is when you are looking at a striker of top quality, prem quality in today's market, 30 million is nothing. We've spent 40 million on Disasi and Badiashile, but we've spent a lot of money, higher fees on players that have never played for Chelsea, never had an impact. Liam Delap is a player that I can see in terms of transitioning into this side. I think that's probably another reason why we have gone for him. When you are looking at a player that can jump straight into a system and get results immediately, Liam Delap, familiar with Enzo Maresca from Man City, familiar with Cole Palmer, familiar with Romeo Lavia. It seems like we're taking the best of other teams' academies as well as Cobham and bringing them into the fold. How do you think, in terms of the speed of how quickly he'd adapt, how important do you think that is for a number nine?
Oh, well, it's massive. I mean, it was exactly what I was going to bring up next. I mean, people think about the Enzo Maresca and Ipswich link, but it's the Man City Academy link, and because of that, you also have, as you said, Palmer and you have Lavia. So the fact that there's multiple figureheads there that have a like for Liam, they know the way that he plays, they have a technical understanding of his game. I think that it will be, it will be a very positive thing going forward, particularly with the fact that I reckon next season Romeo Lavia will get a lot more time. So I think that him integrating into the club alongside Palmer, who obviously they've got their relationship that's developed over a year, adding Delap into that fray as that sort of, you've got your holding midfielder, you have your attacking midfielder, and then you have your striker. And that little spine there, that little core with the manager as well, all pre-diagnosed. As you said, it feels like we're picking apart the best things of somewhere else and merging them into this Cobham academy graduate situation, which we have dotted around the pitch as well. And it's a good thing to see, all of this youth, particularly with the new signings, the Payers, and even the academy graduates, the Shim Weckers coming into the team in the next year or two. It is exciting how young we are. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't remember the last time that this Chelsea team was as dynamic, as fresh, as young, and looking for these a striking option in Liam Delap. And I'm sure we'll go into a few other options later. And a few of them will be in that 25, 26 year age profile, but a few of them have been in and around that 30 in the past, in the last few years, in and around that aged experience striker, that Costa profile. And we can't live to that right now. I even heard someone the other day talking about, what if we signed a 1 year deal with Lewandowski, on like a crazy wage bill? And I wouldn't like it as much as it makes sense on paper and it looks good on FIFA and whatnot. I just don't think that that's something that practically for Chelsea would be a good thing long term. So Liam Delap, I'm happy with. We just got to see how it kicks on. But yeah, definitely a good place for him at the minute at Chelsea. And there's a lot of familiarity that probably a lot of people didn't know about.
Yeah, I think he's got the best when you look at particularly we'll call them the tier one targets, the targets that have been spoken about heavily. That I think if you asked anyone across the globe who are the 5 strikers Chelsea are interested in, the names would be virtually the same. But Delap is the only one of those 5 who has Premier League experience. There are a couple of others, obviously, who've played in the Championship, who've done a little bit in lower leagues. But in terms of Prem experience, as well as having the youth, the longevity, we've seen that he can do it in a big league, in big games, against big teams like Chelsea. Not that we were, what, I'll leave that one for the comments to decide.
So we can stop him.
Yeah, whether we were letting him stat pad, maybe, could be. But, at the end of the day, he's the only one with both the experience that we do require to know that someone could get it done. Because how many times have we looked and a striker's been signed from another league that's got 20, 25, 30 goals last season, comes into the Premier League, can't hit a barn door with a banana skin? Rasmus Højlund, who reportedly, apparently, is the target for Inter Milan. I can't imagine how you would. What exactly did PSG do to them? Because they didn't just put 5 past them. They must have knocked brain cells loose from Inter's. Like, what possibly could motivate you to lose a Champions League final and go, right, to reach the next step, we need Rasmus Højlund? I
got a take on it. Like, I don't think Højlund's as bad as people say he is. Like, to be honest, I think that if you look at his stats compared to the likes of Ibrahimovic, Ronaldo, all of these guys that were excellent strikers at his age, they're in lower leagues, pegging similar numbers. He's in a hard situation with Man United, who are 15th, being forced to be their primary outlet. Like, in a system like Inter, where they have runners like DeMarco and they have those balls going in over the top, you never know. Højlund could be a good target man. I don't think it's necessarily a bad transfer, to be totally honest, but I hear what you mean. He's not the striker you go out of your way to bang up 80 million euros on. You know what I mean?
He's not better than Lautaro Martinez, is he? He's not going to score more goals than Inter's current captain. But yeah, I could see why for him, coming from Atlanta last year, it makes sense to go back to the Italian league and maybe get a little bit more familiar, develop a little bit more. But moving back onto Chelsea, and just very quickly before we go into the targets, do you feel like Liam Delap's going to be a success? Yes or no?
With time, yeah, I think so. I don't think it's going to be an immediate success. I think he'll find his footing, and when he does, similar to Palmer, give it a few months into his time. If he kicks on, then we'll know quite quickly. But I reckon we'll know by February. It's hard to say now, but we'll know by January, February.
Agreed. Well, I mean, fingers crossed we don't have to wait 6 months to find out whether we do have a number 9 or not. Fingers crossed we can figure it out in the next couple of months. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think, although on the face of it looks like he might fit in very quickly, it's a big ask. It's a lot of expectation on your shoulders. So fingers crossed he can cope with it, because there is no doubt, excellent player, technical ability in terms of his footballing skill and ability. He's a sensational player, and I've got to say shout out to James Landon as well, because he very rarely raves about players, but Liam Delap is someone that he rates incredibly highly, and for better or for worse, I trust his judgment. But moving on to the tier one targets, as we called them, and in no particular order. So obviously you've got Liam Delap, the first of the five strikers, and the other four strikers that Chelsea have been very, very heavily linked to in the last, well, not even last couple of months, all season. So you've got Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. You've got Victor Gyokeres from Sporting Lisbon. You've got Victor Osimhen, for Galatasaray Napoli, and you've got Benjamin Sesko for RB Leipzig. So you've got four strikers there, two of them 22 years old, two of them 26 years old. I wouldn't say differing ends of the scale because they've all got, at least 3 seasons as a number nine under their belt. But I've put together a bit of a stat sheet here, and I do kind of want to run through those things. But I just want to get your thoughts first off, because I feel like out of this list, I would look at it and think it's pretty set, but I feel like you're going to surprise me.
Well, yeah, yeah, I think I will. And I've been doing a bit of research for this one, and for a very long time, my perspective is our striker next season will be called Victor, whether it's Victor Osimhen or Victor Gyokeres, I don't mind, but either or, one of them's going to end up at Stamford Bridge. And I've wanted that, for quite a while as well. I mean, Victor Osimhen's a player that I know has a history with the club. He's supported the club as a youth. I know he's got a link through Nigeria with John Obi Mikel. There's been a lot of positive conversations about Chelsea, and it's excited me. I think he's a great striker. His instincts are fantastic. Off the volley, off the turn, he's a striker's striker. But what I struggle with Victor Osimhen is I look at him as almost like the reverse Flash to Nicholas Jackson, where Nicholas Jackson has that tenacity, that running you down, and then he just lacks that little light touch, and then the finish. Where Osimhen has that, he has that ability to knock it down and put it in space and to put it away. That finding where I am in the tenacity, in the mental, and the want. I personally haven't seen it as much as I have with Nicholas Jackson. Do you see where I'm going with that one? Yeah. And I just feel like it's more of the same. It's more of a different problem. You know what I mean? Like,
do you feel like Victor Osimhen and Liam Delap are very similar players, similar styles? Is that wrong to say?
That's another thing as well. I think that Liam Delap maybe is a bit more target man sort of style than he is that like cutting runner, but he does do it, particularly with Maresca. And yeah, I think that they if you have one, I can't justify buying Liam Delap for 30 million and a few months later buying Victor Osimhen for a substantial amount more than that, when realistically the profile of the player is very, very similar. Gyokeres, just to transition onto that one, is the other one that I was very interested in. And I've seen him play in English football as well, which is very important to me. I really rate the Championship a lot. And the way that he played there made me feel like he can do it in the Premier League. He definitely can do it in the Premier League. He needs the right system, the right players around him. But is Chelsea going to be that system where we can get the most out of a player like Victor Gyokeres? I don't know. I like it. As much as I want him, and I probably prefer him to Osimhen, something stinks about that transfer to me. I can't quite tell you what it is, but there's just something about it which I just worry that he would be more successful at United, or he'd be more successful at another club like that than he would do at Chelsea.
So your concerns are more about Chelsea's system rather than the quality of the player itself.
100%. With a player like Gyokeres, I think that you can't deny the player that he is. But I think that there's just something I can't know exactly what it is. But I watch the comp from him. I've watched Chelsea for years on years, and this system we've been under for the last 12 months, I just don't see it clicking. I just don't know what it is, but I just don't see it working.
I do hear that, and that's actually not something that I thought about when I was putting together my list in order, but you could probably categorize out of those five strikers, you could probably, if we're being quite general, you could probably put Delap and Osimhen as target men. You could put Gyokeres and Ekitike as the kind of runners in behind. Obviously, they've got the ability to do both. And then I suppose you've got Sesko, who is a bit of both. He is, the tallest of the lot. He's the target man, but he's also got the fluidity to do the running. So I do hear that, particularly when you look at the track record of Chelsea strikers and you think the ones that have worked have all been big target men. Diego Costa, Olivier Giroud, to an extent, Romelu Lukaku, Didier Drogba, they've all been big physical strikers. And when we have gone for a more running base, build-up play in behind striker, Chelsea tend to get very frustrated with them very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, they're kind of all in a pretty similar. Liam Delap is obviously the cheaper option on 30 mil. Ekitike, rumored for around 80. Gyokeres, I'll tell you what. Let's look at Gyokeres and Osimhen then. Let's just have a quick comparison on them because we were kind of talking on them. So they'd both be available for around a similar figure. I think Gyokeres' release clause is 60 mil, which is cheaper than I expected. Osimhen's, I think, is 64 mil. Obviously, his wages are going to be astronomical, which, another stumbling block. I do feel like with Osimhen, a lot of it comes down to, there's no doubt in the quality of player and what you're going to get from him. But a lot of it is the variables, the packages. And as you kind of said there, with the John Obi Mikel, I do feel like Chelsea are kind of hesitant to go into a player that's clicked up. Because if it stops working, if Maresca drops him, doesn't play him, you're going to be getting podcast episodes. You're going to be getting clips coming out saying, "Oh, he's using the striker wrong. He's doing it wrong. He's ruining my club. He's misusing." I feel like Chelsea, for a similar reason as why we are not interested in Garnacho, I feel like we're trying to stay away from that kind of media buzz as much as possible. And Osimhen has not only you've got obviously the figures, that I think that is a big reason why Chelsea are hesitant to go in for a big money striker is because we've seen how much money we've lost and the risks that we've taken that haven't paid off. And I do feel like looking at Victor Osimhen, the track record's there, the goals are there, even if he's been doing it in the Turkish Super League, whatever. He's got a fantastic track record. I think on his over his last 3 years, his strike rate is 75%. He scores in 75.89% of the games he plays, which is absolutely unbelievable.
Insane, yeah.
But I do feel like he's a bit of a drama player. He's got too much of a hubbub around him.
And he needs to be too locked in. I agree. I think that the situation's got to be too perfect. And Chelsea have shown time and time again over the last handful of seasons that too perfect is not an environment that we're comfortable in. With the type of team to go 1-0 down to Real Betis in the first half and then end up winning the game 4-1. It's not like we don't face adversity. And we can't have players having their head drop and the mental go. And, once again, as you said, if out of all of those players, to be honest, out of any striker, a top level striker in world football right now, Victor Osimhen, when it comes to like the attitude, it's the one I worry about the most. Who's the most likely to do a Lukaku, to just throw their toys out the pram and say they didn't like it anyways? It's probably Osimhen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is, and it's one of those where you had that season when Haaland first joined City, where Osimhen was inarguably top two strikers in the world. You could have made a case for him being even slightly more rounded than Haaland, but last season, 17 goals, really, really suffered. I know he had a couple of injuries. He's not particularly consistent, and then as you've said, thrown his toys out the pram at Napoli, and he's had to go to Galatasaray, where he may have got 21 goals this season, but I think Michy Batshuayi probably hit that figure at Galatasaray as well. So I think it's fair to say, out of those four strikers, we can rule Osimhen out.
Yeah, I would say so. And just for context, it's mad that that is the case. That the first one that gets ruled out is the one that probably had the strongest links to Chelsea overall.
100%. But listen, bro, we're here for ball knowledge and for logic. We got it in abundance. And that is why you come to the Two Blues podcast. But on to the next one then. And I'd like you to answer me a question, Charms.
Yes, sir.
Hugo Ekitike. How has he got the highest price tag on this list?
That's crazy to me. There's. I'll say it now, right? I'll just go through who my choice is. I don't understand how Ekitike is worth more than Benjamin Sesko when they have the same physical profile, but I find that Sesko offers so much more on the ball. I think as a finisher, they got a similar level of like that. Like Chippetto on strings kind of style, where he's like floating about when he's got the rock and he's turning and he's looking to poke it. He's like roll it under the keeper instead of smashing it. They both share that in common. But I find Sesko to be so much more like IQ for where he is in football, where he's faced out to and the goals you see from him are so much more technical, because Ekitike is a take it down, flick it in, whack it, you know what I mean? It's fun and it's exciting. And once again, 6'3" is a big kid. But I just think Sesko offers more. So to get him for less, I don't understand it. But the potential with Ekitike, I really can see. And the league he plays in, the level he plays at, I do understand the very high transfer fee. I do understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one that, I mean, he obviously came onto a lot of people's radars with that goal against Tottenham. He was a move that didn't really work at PSG. He had the move, the loan move to Eintracht Frankfurt, but they paid £17.1 million for him. I think it was at the start of last season. So to be looking at an 80 million potential fee for a player that has, I think it was, how many goals has he got this season? Hold on, let me have a look. 12 goals this season. No, I'm lying. 22 all appearances. 22 goals, all appearances. But prior to that, he got 4 goals last year and 4 goals the season before. This is not a player, and I know he's young, but this is not a player with a track record of doing
Well,
it in the big leagues. And yes, potential, we as Chelsea fans hear that word way too often.
way too often.
If you are to compare, and this is kind of crazy because what I'm about to say is incredibly hypocritical, bearing in mind Sesko on my list is lower than Ekitike. But if you compare Sesko and Ekitike, it is chalk and cheese.
Yeah,
Sesko blows him out the water, and you've got to give him a little bit of a caveat. Obviously, Sesko's been kind of a first team player for a long time. He's had players like Xabi Simons, Christopher Nkunku, Timo Werner in alongside him, helping create. But
Openda as well. Yeah,
yeah, they have got a very, very good team. But obviously, to play for Leipzig and to be playing consistently, you've got to be a fairly good player. 18 goals, 22, 23, 18 goals again, 23, 24, and then increasing that to 21 last season. Strike rate of just under five at half. He's got 44% strike rate, but it's the third highest on the list. Liam Delap, 21% strike rate. Ekitike 30%, and then you've got Benjamin Sesko at 44. It's a lot better reading. The only thing that I do fear with Sesko is I do fear he's a very, very stat-based player. And I say this because I hate watching him play. And this is another player that I think, again, I can't deny he's a great player and he's got fantastic ability. I think it's got 7 league goals. Number one, it's got Arsenal written all over it. Number two, it's got 7 league goals written all over it. He will score a couple of screamers. He will score a couple of long range pearlers into the top bins. He's got good positional awareness to be in the box as well. I just don't know. It's a je ne sais quoi, but a bad je ne sais quoi. I don't know what it is, bro. I just don't like him.
Honestly, I don't see it, man. Like, I think that I get it. I get it. The style is very one of one. He's very prone. Like, he just kind of sits there deep, right, pushing the centre backs. Very boring. Like, you want him to drop in and maybe help out a bit more, offer an option for a short pass. All of a sudden, everyone's sprinting. He's just kind of meandering back, but then he gets the goal. The ball comes in and he's the one that bags it. All of a sudden, he's got 2 goals in this game. You watch his overall game, and he hasn't really done anything. He's just kind of been floating in and around the area, and that's kind of what I like. That's kind of what I like from him. He's a true target man. Boring. Not when he's on the ball, very technical. When he's off of it, very obtuse. Very not calling for the ball, not trying to make and run for the short pass. He's just floating in and around dangerous areas, and if they do get to him, he will touch it down and knock it. And I think that with the Chelsea you've watched for this season, I think that it's hard for you to look at the sort of XG way that we attack and whatnot, and just and not think, okay, so what, we're just buying another guy for 80 million. He's going to sit there and not contribute to the attack. Like, and I get that, and how you can see that won't be too, it won't be too effective. But when you do have the players that we have in these roles, like Cole Palmer, he's not there anymore, but Jadon Sancho, Madueke, these wingers who they want to play the ball into someone. They just don't have anyone to play it into because Nicholas Jackson is chasing about and pushing against a man. If they just have a guy sitting there patient, waiting, who can touch it down, turn and volley it, can hit it with his knee, his shoulder, his head, I think Benjamin Sesko can be very, very successful at Stamford Bridge. And I just can't watch what I'm watching and just not think he's a 22-year-old 6'5" Diego Costa.
Do you think he's enough of a target man though? I know I said kind of when I categorized him earlier, he's
Yeah.
kind of that floater, he's in the middle. Do you feel like he is enough of a target man? As a 22-year-old, he's obviously not, fully physically developed yet. Is he enough, big and strong enough to come into the Premier League and do a target man role?
Listen, and no 22-year-old on the planet is going to have a good time going head and shoulders with Virgil van Dijk. It's the hardest league in the world, the Premier League, and you're going to
Mm.
get the best centre backs in the world because of it. I just, let him get muscled off once, let him get muscled off twice, let him see how that feels. Give it a season, mate. If he comes back in, he can do big numbers, and if he can do it anywhere, if he can do it in the Premier League, he can do it anywhere. And I think he's going to be putting a lot of eggs in I wanted this move to the Premier League, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's United, whether it's Chelsea. I reckon we do see Benjamin Sesko in the Premier League
Yeah,
next season.
yeah,
I
I'd
really
have to
hope
agree with you on that.
I really hope it's with us, and I do believe that he does have the physicality, the presence. If not immediately, then I do think he has the time and the physical to get there for sure. I mean, the size of the kid is insane. When you're watching the clips of him, he's literally eye level above everyone else.
Yeah, he does have, and again, it's one of those things that I can't really explain. He does have a lot of attributes, and on paper, when you look at him, when you look at his development for such a young age, playing at that level, he's done extremely well. And again, I don't doubt he's a great player. Um, I do. I feel like it's maybe more of a comparison thing. If I was to take Gyokeres and Osimhen and all these world class Isaac out, or whatever, you're going to look at Sesko a little bit more like that. But I can hear it. I fully agree with you. I think he'll be in the Prem next season, and yeah, it will just be incredibly interesting on who he goes to. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd say I think Arsenal will snap him up. But those are the main links that Chelsea, or main players, sorry, that Chelsea have been linked to. Obviously, we're very close to the official confirmation of Liam Delap. I'm sure Chelsea will be putting a statement out in the next couple of days, but that is all done, confirmed as per Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano. So don't see any bumps in the road there. Last, but I just realised I was about to start signing off. Charles, I need you to give me a tangible reason as to why you don't like Victor Gyokeres. 22, right? Number one, this is the one thing, right, as well, why I like Gyokeres. Only player to have played 50 or more games in the last 3 years, consecutively back to back, played 50 in 2022 23, 50 in 23 24, 52 in 24 25. Not only has he played 150 games in 3 years, he is scoring at ridiculous rates, 22 in 22 23. 43 goals in 23-24. And then this season, in 52 appearances, he scored 54 goals. And on top of that, he got 13 assists, which is a lot higher than any other player. Well, Ekitike got 12. But no other player can come close to his goal contributions of 67 goal contributions in 54 games. The closest other player is Osimhen on 45. So he's got 22 more goal contributions than the next highest striker. His strike rate over the last 3 years is 78%. He scores nearly 8 goals every 10 shots he takes. This guy is an absolute monster. So I need you to tell me, Chumps, for £60 million, what don't you like about Gyokeres?
Why don't you see the exact same numbers and the exact same stats when you look up Darwin Núñez when he was sitting in Benfica and he was doing the same thing in Europe? Looked fantastic, bagging goals, looked like he
So
could
it's the
break
Liga
lines,
NOS.
unstoppable. I think that the Liga NOS, if you can name more than 4 teams, you're either Portuguese or you're on Google. Simple. I mean, when we get past the Braga, there's not many things under that. And week in, week out, Victor Gyokeres is a world-class striker. I will say he is a world-class striker. There's no
Mm.
question. But in the league that he's in, you can have a 77% conversion rate, a shot percentage rate, all of these incredible stats. But let's see you do it when you've got Jose Sarr one week, and then the next week you've got Robert Sanchez, and the next week you've got, well, probably Bags, to be honest. But then the week after that, you've got Onana, and then the next week after that, you've got Vicario. It's like, even the bad teams I'm listing have got quality keepers. At the end of the day, we can say what we want about a Vicario and an Onana and all of these, but they're going to be substantially better competition, let alone the centre-backs that he's got to break through to get there. The likes of a Christian Romero, a Lenny Yoro, even a Badia Shield. The worst centre-backs and the worst goalkeepers that start in the Premier League are substantially better than the best players in the Portuguese leagues, and that's a given. And I think that we as much as for every Cristiano Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes you're going to get a Darwin Núñez, and we have to just figure out which it's going to be. You can't just look at the stats. Where with all the other players, you can look into a top 4 league. You can look into a German league, a Spanish league, a French league, and a Portuguese league. It just doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, with Gyokeres, my argument to that would be Coventry. I know it's not Premier League experience, but again, I got another friend who's a big Coventry fan. Rated Gyokeres extremely highly. Shout out Joe when he was at Coventry. Even then, I wasn't sold, but it's one of those where I think he's got the he's got the testimonials for me, and then he's gone out into a big league in Europe, maybe not one of Europe's top leagues, but a big league in Europe. He's scoring in the Champions League, scoring in the domestic cup, scoring in the domestic leagues. Yeah, I think there is only so much I can ignore the stats, particularly when they read that well. But Gyokeres would be my pick. And of course, Sesko would be C Money. So let us know in the comments, who do you think would be a better choice for Chelsea? And out of those 4, who would you choose if Chelsea were to sign one more striker this summer? Also, let us know how happy you are with the signing of Liam Delap. Do you think he's going to make an impact, or is it going to be another David Datro Fofana? Either way, let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Two Blues podcast on YouTube, all social medias, and also available to listen to on Spotify. Thank you very much for joining. We will be back later this week with some more great content. And next time, we're going to do this exact same episode on wingers. So get your predictions, get everything down in the comments, get your stat sheet ready. We're going to go through who Chelsea should sign as a winger next. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Till next time, up the Chelsea.